Good day everyone, so you saw the title of this video and you're grabbing your pitchforks because how can anyone doubt YaoYao, the new Leeway 4-star Dendro healer that's just so amazing, replaces Kokomi and Nilou Bloom. Okay, I'm not going to sugarcoat it, she's not that strong in Nilou Bloom teams, she does not optimize Nilou Bloom teams, so I think her little Dendro resistance bonus is not really even that useful at all. But for you to really understand why I'm not convinced on YaoYao in Nilou Bloom teams, that's what this video is all about. We're going to have to dig into some details. Unfortunately, I can't give you a simple little one-liner that you can put onto Twitter and nobody can argue against it. We actually have to dig a bit deeper into the game mechanics. So this is very, very important. So just bear with me for a bit of a while, and then I'll get into the actual reasons why YaoYao is not that great and with a couple of practical examples. So let's just kick it off. Here's the enemy, Masanori. He's got Dendro applied onto him. So what happens when you now apply a bit of Hydra? So Kokomi, normal attack plus a charge attack. Well, oh, look at that. We've got two little Dendro cores. Okay, so this is the first observation I want you to sort of look at. The second observation is, well, what happens if we now do the opposite? We apply Hydra onto the enemy, and we now do the exact same normal attack plus a charge attack here of Nahida. Well, you don't get two Dendro cores like with Kokomi. You get one Dendro core, and now Dendro being applied onto the enemy. So clearly, we can see from just very simple game mechanics that Hydro and Dendro are not equal. In fact, this is something that happens quite a bit in Genshin Impact. Some elements, when they react to other elements, well, that was a tongue twister, aren't always equal. And this means that, let's say for instance, if you apply 1 unit of Dendro onto an enemy and you apply 1 unit of Hydro onto an enemy, your Hydro is not always going to extinguish all of the Dendro. Dendro is kind of like the stronger element in this relationship, and this is something we've seen in the past with like Pyro's interaction with Cryo and Hydro, and there are all sorts of interesting things where one element acts as the stronger one, and this means that if you've got the strong element on an enemy, if you apply the weaker element, you can apply more of the weaker element before the stronger element goes away. I hope that made sense, and that's actually the reason why you can get more like Dendro cores if you apply Hydro onto an enemy that has Dendro on him. So this is very, very important. Apply Hydro onto Dendro means more cores. Now, there's a lot of details I'm sweeping under the rug. Elemental gauge theory, how the gauges works, the aura, the taxing on the aura, the gauge duration. There's all sorts of good things we're going to sweep under the rug. I just want to make a simple observation. So with that bit of a quick theory out of the way, what does this all actually practically mean for YaoYao? Well, one of the things you want to do in Nilou Bloom teams is maximize your Dendro core production by ensuring that your Dendro units are consistently applying enough Dendro onto the enemy. And the only way you can do this with YaoYao very reliably is to have her on field and using her elemental burst. The moment you swap off of YaoYao, you lose out all of her elemental burst like effects. And this is problematic because in Genshin Impact there's another free character called Collei, which does exactly what YaoYao does, but you can just use her off field. So you trigger Collei's elemental burst and then you swap to your other units, and look at that, you can now ensure maximum like Dendro core production. So the only real benefit you can actually get from YaoYao is if you want to argue that you're going to get some healing and that you want to replace Kokomi because Xingqiu and Yelan's a better single target damage dealer. And then to that I'd say, well, are you really sure about that? Are you really sure that Kokomi with her Ocean U-Clam set and 8k normal attacks, which you can get every second of, is going to be that much worse than having Yelan or Xingqiu on the field for your single target unit? I'm not that convinced, and if that's the case, well, then I don't even need YaoYao for healing. So from my perspective, like practically, as in doing frame counting, doing this over and over in a Spiral Abyss, I'm not convinced that at an F2P level YaoYao is going to add that much, and the situation is much worse like at a C6 R5 kind of level, which is what I quickly want to sort of like demonstrate to you. So in the background you can see here we're just quickly running a C6 R5 Missplit, a Xingqiu, C6 R5 Nahida, all the good things. This is probably the most difficult variation against PMA. I look at that little triple Dendro core production from Xingqiu, pretty awesome. So now I'm having Nahida on field because my sort of C6 really kicks in, and together with Missplitter Xingshu, I'm doing pretty like a decent amount of damage. In this case, I don't really need YaoYao apart from the occasional bits of healing. You can certainly mitigate that by just playing a bit more carefully with Nahida and so on, but it's not too bad of a performance. Now, I do the exact same thing here with Kokomi and Collei instead, and notice what sort of happens. And I want you to sort of pay attention to the Dendro core production. So in the same situation, the enemy's going to knock us back, so this is less optimal for this team in any case. You can see it that we're keeping up quite steadily with like the amount of damage we're doing, and the moment the enemy falls, well, look at that, we're just sort of going to take him out. So yeah, Kokomi on her own is competitive against the C6 R5 Xingshu of Missplitter and Nahida combined. And this is the interesting thing, it's not because Kokomi does so much more damage, it's because we've actually maximized our Dendro core production with Kokomi and Collei. And there's a little bit of a hidden thing here as well. So if you've noticed in my previous video with Xingshu, I actually used his like elemental skill to get like a bit of extra like little Dendro core. So you can see here I use his like, yeah, there we go, elemental skill, and that allows me to get, you can see here, 3 little Dendro cores, which is pretty cool. Kokomi has almost the same kind of like hidden effect, and this is hidden with her elemental burst. So you can see here, when I'm going to sort of trigger her elemental burst right about now, Kokomi applies 2 units of Hydro just with her elemental burst, and this means that I can fully utilize any Dendro that's on the enemy. In fact, I've overtaken Nahida and Collei's like Dendro production because I've just applied way too much Hydro as well in the case here of Kokomi. So this is kind of a little interesting thing that you kind of see when you do all of these things in slow motion. Now make no mistake, the reason I'm hopping on the Dendro application is because most of you don't have a C6 Nahida, and that means that the interval between you triggering Dendro on your Nahida is like 2.5 seconds, whereas in my case it's 1.9, and that 0.6 seconds difference matters a lot. And this is the thing, if you don't have that consistent Dendro application, you can also end up in a weird situation where if you're just relying on Nahida's Dendro application, your Hydro units might overtake her Dendro application, and then you're just sort of sitting here with the enemy just being doused with Hydro and no Dendro cores whatsoever to speak of. And this is why your secondary Dendro unit is so important in these teams. And this is what I love about Collei, because I can use Collei's elemental burst, and then once, if I need more Dendro application, I just use a little E ability, because then I'll get the boomerang, which is going to hit for Dendro. It's going to come back. I'm going to get the little swirling, what I can't remember what the name is, but you get a little swirling effect around Collei as well, so you get more consistent Dendro, and that is the key to maximizing Nilou teams, your Dendro core production rate. Oh yeah, I'm getting tired. So this is why I'm not convinced of Collei. So hopefully you guys understand. I'm not convinced of YaoYao. You can clearly hear I'm like tired, so on. This is why I'm not convinced on YaoYao, because YaoYao herself offers not really anything new or special in terms of Dendro core production, and in terms of truly maximizing your DPS output, I'm not as convinced that you should replace your traditionally built Kokomi with Xingshu or Yelan, and that the differences are going to be that big. That's just what I wanted to kind of make. But yeah, other than that, I mean, obviously if you use YaoYao in hyper blooms or in spread teams, there is more benefit, I think, in those teams to using her. So I'm not trashing the character, I'm just trying to be realistic as to the observations I kind of make. Alright, let me know what you guys think. Thanks for watching. Cheers.